Until now you have created a lot of different workflows, and especially if you make these workflows public, if they should work all the time, if they maybe should work also for clients, it's important for you that you can always see if these workflows are working or not. If your workflows are broken, you need to find this immediately. So that's why I want to show you in this video how we can make an error workflow. This error workflow will simply send you an email as soon as one of your workflows breaks. This is really important. Let me show you how we can do this. So debugging will get a lot easier because you always find the problems faster and ideally before your clients find these problems. So let's just build out this workflow. We press create workflow, we press plus. What we want to have is the error trigger node, so we simply press on these, and we also press fetch test event. We simply need this test event later in order to work with these. Then we press plus once again, and what I want to do right now is to use the Gmail node, because I want to get a message or an email as soon as one of my workflows is breaking down. So we use send a message. I am connected with my Gmail credentials, of course. Resource is message, the operation is sent. Then we need to type in, of course, our email number. Let's just use this thing here. I want to have a subject that immediately tells me what workflow is broken. So I come on expressions, I make this big, and I simply want to say, for example, workflow. We use this name, the example workflow is broken. Or failed, or whatever you want to call it. Failed is broken. You can do this however you want. I want to read immediately in my subject line that one of my workflows is broken. The email type, I like to use text, but you can also use HTML. Then the message, let's just also go on expression and we make this big. I want to start with workflow. This thing once again, and we can also say is broken. Then what I want to have is date and time, 2 curly braces. We want to have now, of course. Last note is also something that I want to include. We have here the last note executed because this thing is the thing that fails most likely later. And lastly, we want to have the error message. So the error message is simply this here, example error message. We can call this details or whatever. I can simply throw this in and then we get some details here. Or also let's just call this details. Then lastly, damn, because we hate it if something is breaking. And maybe also the error stack. And the error stack is of course this thing down here. Then we have everything included. And let's just close this down. So this is actually fine. Then lastly, the append n8n attribution, we just leave it on because this is completely okay that in this email that I get is always included that this thing comes from n8n, so this is fine for me. So basically we have this error workflow, but this is just the first part here. Now let's just give this a name. Let's just call it error trigger, for example, or error workflow trigger, and we save this thing. Now before I want to show you how we can use this, we simply test this workflow and we want to see if I get my mail or not. I got my mail. Workflow, example workflow is broken. Date and time is this thing here. Last note, note with error, details, example error message, damn, error stack, the stack trace. And this was sent by n8n, so this works. But right now, of course, we need to integrate this error workflow into another workflow. And then if the other workflow fails, we get all the details immediately as email. This is what we are doing with this thing. So the test event is working. So let's just come to overview, create workflow. We make a new workflow. I want to start with an unscheduled workflow. And I want to have something that works like every minute, for example. So every minute this workflow should do something for me, and as soon as this thing is breaking, we will get our email. So this thing should be okay. Then I press plus, the advanced AI. Let's just use an AI agent. I want to do something quick, something easy here. Then we use a chat model. Yes, let's just use OpenAI as the chat model with GPT-4o Mini. This is completely fine. By the way, we have GPT 4.5 here, but I think this is way too expensive, so we never worked with these. We do not want to have any memory, but we want to have, for example, a system prompt. So we add a system prompt. The system message is, you are a helpful assistant, no? You write stories about animals. You write short stories about animals, and I also want to copy this system message. We come back here, defined below. The text, we also always want to have a hard-coded prompt here, or let's just fix it a little bit. Write a short story about a animal. This is just a stupid example, test step. And there we have a short story, so this is fine. So what this workflow is doing right now is to write short stories about animals all day long. Yes, this is a stupid example, but this is just for testing purposes. Of course, you can make this agent bigger. This can be any agent that you want. This can be every single workflow that you simply want to make. So let's just assume that this would be an agent that writes us every single minute a story about animals. Maybe the stories can get posted on LinkedIn or something else, but we will just leave it as simple as this. Then you can make this active later, of course, but first we want to include our trigger node. If we simply press here and we go on settings, first of all, of course, make sure that you use the right time zone, because if not, you will get problems with these. So Berlin is our time zone. We simply press save. Now we have this right here. Then we press once again. We go once again on settings, and then you also find this right here, error workflow. Now you can press on error workflow, and here we need to find the error workflow trigger, of course. It's this thing down here, so we press on it, and then we press save. Now our other workflow is connected with this workflow, and if this workflow is breaking, we will get the email that this workflow is no longer working. First, I want to show you when our other workflow does not get triggered. If this workflow gets from inactive to active and works every single minute, writes here on executions every single minute the stupid stories about animals, then of course our other workflow will not get triggered. Let's just wait until our next story comes through. So there we are, our workflow is running. This will most likely work, and if this thing is working, of course we will get no error node. So boom, this thing is working, so no problem at all. If I come back into the editor and I send this from active to inactive, this was no problem. If I press test workflow and this thing is green, it's also no problem. And then I want to show you also something special. If I simply press test workflow and also this thing is broken, then it's also no problem. It will just be a problem as soon as we have this from inactive to active, and if we have then some problems. So if I make here, for example, by ID, and I use the wrong model, for example, we will get problems with our API calls, or maybe like your credits are gone from OpenAI. If I press test workflow right now, of course, this thing has failed right now. But if I come back into overview, let's just save this, and I come into my error workflow trigger and I come in executions, you see that I did not get an execution. So right now it's this time here, so this was just our old execution that we did manually with our testing event. So basically nothing happened here. And now I want to show you when something is happening. If I come back to my animal story thing here once again, and let's just use this also here once again, and I sent this right now from inactive to active. Right now, in 1 minute at least, we will have a new execution, and the new execution will fail. So this is the old thing that we did right now. This failed, this was no problem. But right now we are active, and as soon as I have my next execution that is active, boom, there we have it. Right now we have failed, and at least in theory, I should get my warning right now. If I come back into the error workflow trigger and I come back into executions, right now you see that we had an execution right now at this minute. And if I come back into my mails, let's just see, you see that we have a mail here. Workflow animal story failed. If I press on it, we can see the details. Workflow animal story is broken. Date and time, this date and time. Last note, the AI agent node was not working. Details, the resource you are requesting could not be found. Damn! And here is the error stack, so you can basically just go on, throw this into ChatGPT and ask for a quick moment what is wrong with this thing. So this is really cool. And if we come back here into my mails once again, in theory, we should get this mail every minute. Boom, there you see it, 1 minute later, and we still got the next mail because our workflow needs to be get triggered every single minute. And that's why I will get like every single minute a mail that my workflow is not working. So I really get hammered with these. This is of course just as an example, so you need to see this as an example. This animal story will get triggered every minute so that we don't need to wait for a whole day here. But this is especially important if you have, for example, workflows that get executed once a day, twice a day, or maybe also just once or twice a week. And maybe you would not find it out that these workflows are not working. This is extremely important. If this workflow fails, you have no chance in knowing this without this workflow trigger node. Right now you see you get hammered with these mails and you know exactly what workflow is broken, and then you can come back, you send this from active to inactive, and you can simply press this workflow again, then you find that this thing is broken, then you will maybe find why this thing is broken, you will fix it, and as soon as this thing is fixed once again, with like a mini model, a model that actually exists, you can press this workflow again, and as soon as this is working, you can send it from inactive once again back to active, and then you will have no longer any problems, and you will also get no longer hammered with mails that you have failures in your workflows. So in this video you have learned how we can use the error workflow node. It's really easy. We make a new workflow, we call it error workflow. You can simply connect this workflow with your Gmail account, but also with Slack or with whatever. You can make yourself a message wherever you want. We connect some details so that we get some details through as soon as some of our workflow is breaking. Then of course you need to integrate this workflow in the other workflows that you want to control. If you have a workflow active, and a workflow should work like automatically with, for example, a time trigger, it's of course crucial that you understand if something is breaking, because if something is breaking, you can fix it immediately. This is also important if you host stuff for people. Maybe you integrate a chatbot into a web page from one of your clients. If such a workflow is failing, you need to see this immediately and then fix your workflow. This is important, you should totally do this. And make sure to always control that you have here on settings the right time zone for you, especially if you test this locally, because if not, this can make some problems. And the same thing is also true in your error workflow node. Please make sure that you use the same time. And also give here date and time in the message, and then you are ready and you can simply try this out yourself. Have fun fixing your bugs, even if fixing bugs never makes fun. But at least right now you will find them fast.